Chapter 1153. When the first bolt of lightning struck, Fengjiu walked out of the cave abode. She went to take a look at the spirit-gathering array in the boundary. Finally, her gaze landed on the spirit-gathering array that was surging with spiritual energy. The person inside was Duan Yi. His talent could be said to be the most outstanding among them, so it wasn't strange for him to be the first to advance. She went to his spirit-gathering array and sat down cross-legged to protect him. At this moment, some cultivators in the forest outside quickly found that place due to the surging clouds in the sky and the heavenly lightning striking down. However, when they arrived, they were shocked to find that this area had been set up with a formation and boundary. Many of them were walking around outside. They were clearly walking forward and saw that the place where the heavenly lightning struck was right in front of them. However, they found that after walking forward, they soon turned back and returned to their original spot. Hiss! Who set up this formation? It's not the same as an ordinary maze formation. I can't break it when I walk in. It's right in front of me, but I can't walk in. The person who set up this formation is an expert. There's actually someone advancing in this place. I'm really curious about who's advancing in here. It's a pity that no one can break this formation. The people outside were discussing. Although they were curious and wanted to know who was advancing in there, no one could enter the formation. That's right. If someone could break it, they wouldn't have stayed outside for so long. No one had walked past this formation in this area. If it weren't for the clouds and heavenly lightning in the sky today, they probably wouldn't have discovered this place. After some rogue cultivators saw that they couldn't enter the formation, they walked around a few times and left. Since they couldn't enter and couldn't see, there was no point in staying here. Some of them had an idea. They felt that this person was advancing and perhaps it was an opportunity for them. Therefore, they walked around in a circle, thinking of a way to enter and take a look. Even if they couldn't enter, it wouldn't be bad for them to disrupt the person's advancement. However, just as they thought that since they couldn't enter, they might as well attack with fire, an old man walked out from among the rogue cultivators. This old man can break this formation. The old man wore a gray robe and stroked his gray beard. He looked at the people around him with a proud gaze. You can break it? Really? Someone asked. Of course. This formation is a maze formation with a slight modification. Others don't understand, but I've studied formations for many years. I'm good at setting up formations and breaking formations. I just walked in this formation. If I say I can break it, then I can break it. The old man's words were full of confidence. When the people around him saw it, they immediately said, "Maze formation, what are you waiting for? Break it." The person inside is advancing, and this is the best time to take advantage of his advancement to disrupt his advancement. What are you still hesitating for? If the person of him. Hearing this, the old man nodded and replied, I can break the formation, but you have to promise me that you will at least give me 1 or 2 treasures. If that person has pills or medicinal liquids on him, they will belong to me. Chapter 1154. The old man was overjoyed when he heard that. He was with their group of rogue cultivators, but he did not notice the formation here. Otherwise, he would have come to check it out long ago. However, since these people said so, then, his eyes flashed, and he returned to his group. He muttered something to them, and the people who were originally standing at the side nodded from time to time. Not long after, the rogue cultivators and the old man walked over and looked at the other group. All of you, come in with me. Go in. What for? Didn't you say you can break it? A burly man from the other group stared at the old man in front of him warily and asked. Yes, it can be broken. However, when I say break, I do not mean break through the formation. Instead, I mean break through the maze formation, determine the direction from within, and walk out of the maze formation. The old man stroked his beard and looked at them. All of you, come in with me. Our group also plans to go in. According to what we said earlier, we only want 1 or 2 Dharma artifacts, and if there are any pills and medicines, you can give them to me. Pfft. Do you think we're fools? Won't these people fight with us after going in? A burly man sneered and stared unkindly at the old man's group. No, they're only escorting me in because I'm worried about you. Who knows if I'll be killed by you after I bring you in? He was also on guard. How could a person who had lived for so long really let down his guard against others? Hearing this, the group gritted their teeth and stared at those people. Seeing that there were many people staring at them, their eyes flashed, and they said, "All right, let's go in together." Since that was the case, then don't blame them for doing the dirty. Therefore, the 2 groups of people walked into the formation under the old man's lead. When the others saw this, they could not help but have a thought. They secretly thought that these people had not been here for long and were not familiar with the rules and dangers here. In such a situation, if they dared to go in without knowing the enemy, they were really courting death. Moreover, the weakest among those people was only in the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. They dared to act so recklessly with such a cultivation level. That was good too. With these people scouting the way, they could see who exactly was inside this array formation. Were they rogue cultivators? Or were they from the same family? Or was he a sorcerer? Soon, the fog in the formation blocked their line of sight, making it impossible for them to see the figures of the people who had entered. They could only hear the sounds of fighting coming from inside after a period of time. When they heard the sounds of swords clashing and screams, the hearts of the cultivators waiting outside tightened. Was it the people inside? Or did the 2 sides start fighting? Ah! A cultivator covered in blood staggered out. At the same time, a second bolt of heavenly lightning struck down from the sky, causing the ground to shake. The deafening sound made their ears roar and they couldn't hear anything else for a long time. After the first cultivator rushed out covered in blood, several cultivators rushed out one after another. These were all gold core cultivators. As for the Foundation establishment cultivators who followed in, none of them were able to come out. Chapter 1155. However, before he could crawl out completely, he breathed his last. Hiss! What is going on? The surrounding cultivators all sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the few golden core cultivators who were panting heavily and sitting on the ground and asked. Those people's faces were pale as they sat on the ground, trembling. Their eyes were wide open and their lips were trembling. For a long time, they were unable to speak. Even when the surrounding people surrounded them and asked them questions, they still could not recover from their shock. Seeing this, a rogue cultivator became greedy. He stared at the few golden core cultivators who had yet to recover from their shock and secretly grasped the long sword at his waist. At this moment, he instantly attacked. A sharp sword light flashed past and viciously stabbed towards the back of one of the cultivators who was sitting next to him. As the long sword struck out, a muffled groan sounded. As the long sword was pulled out, a pillar of blood spurted out and dyed the cultivator's robe blood red. This sudden change shocked the surrounding people. After seeing that it was a rogue cultivator who attacked, their expressions changed slightly and they quickly retreated. This was because it was a rogue cultivator at the peak of the golden elixir realm. Moreover, he was not alone, but a team. There were at least 20 to 30 people. At first, they didn't pay much attention to these people because the people in their team were scattered. Some were sitting under the trees at the back, some were resting on the trees, and some were in groups of 3 to 5, chatting and laughing, drinking as if they didn't want to get involved. However, when the peak golden core cultivator attacked and killed the golden core cultivator who was sitting on the ground, the people behind quickly rushed forward. Their posture was clearly saying, "Who dares to come forward? Don't blame us for not being polite." Seeing the rogue cultivators who instantly revealed a ferocious and bloodthirsty aura, the others quickly retreated. They did not intend to fight with them, because the strength of that group was obviously stronger than the people here. If they fought, they were not confident that they could kill them. "Let's go." Therefore, when the first group of people gave a low shout and left with their teams, the other two families that were training in the forest also left one after another. They didn't stay any longer. The third bolt of lightning struck down at this moment. After a rumbling sound, the surroundings seemed to have returned to normal. At this time, the rogue cultivators took advantage of this time to work together and kill the rogue cultivators who were paralyzed on the ground. They took their chinkuan bags and other things from their bodies. Only one golden core cultivator saw the people around him being killed and used the treasures on his body to escape with his life. "Damn it! We let that old man escape. He must have something good on him," a rogue cultivator said as he looked at the golden core cultivator who disappeared in an instant with a look of pity in his eyes. What a pity that the prey in his hands was gone just like that. "Don't care about him. Quickly clean the battlefield and send a few people to guard the surroundings," the leader of the Peak Jindan stage cultivators said in a gloomy voice. He signaled his subordinates to quickly collect the chinkuan pouch and other things. "Boss, a lot of people died in there. Should we go in and take a look? Those dead people all have chinkuan bags on them. Maybe there are many good things," a big man suggested. When he thought of those who entered the formation and did not come out, he thought of the money and treasures on them. Chapter 1156. Hearing this, the burly man smiled embarrassedly. I don't dare to go in. What a joke. Although money was good, it was useless to have so much money if he lost his life. Let him go in. What if he died in there? Another person walked up. The 3 bolts of lightning have already struck. The person inside should have broken through. "Boss, I think we can't stay here any longer. We have to leave immediately. Otherwise, when the person inside comes out, it'll be..." "Yes, call the brothers. We'll leave in a group." The Peak Golden Core cultivator waved his hand and shouted. Everyone quickly gathered and formed a protective team. Then, they quickly left, leaving behind a ground full of corpses and the smell of blood that had yet to dissipate in the air. Fengzhou, who was sitting cross-legged inside the barrier, didn't pay attention to what was happening outside. She only asked Tun Yun to check on the situation while she stayed here and didn't leave. It wasn't until she saw the 3 bolts of lightning strike that she saw Duan Ye's spiritual aura explode and his strength soar. After he crossed the threshold and entered the Golden Core realm, the spiritual aura in the surroundings gradually stopped. Only then did she reveal a relieved smile. Fortunately, he had successfully advanced. Also, with the help of her medicine, it would be abnormal if he didn't advance. Furthermore, Duan Ye's talent was not ordinary. It was only a matter of time before he entered the Golden Core realm. When all the spiritual aura in his body was withdrawn into his body, Duan Yi, who had his eyes closed, used his divine sense to see a small golden core floating in his dantian. So that was the Golden Core. He had finally entered the Golden Core realm and become a Golden Core cultivator. Thinking of this, he was excited. He opened his eyes and saw the red figure sitting cross-legged not far in front of him. When he saw him, he couldn't help but smile. He wasn't family, but he was more than family. Although he was a teacher, he was more like a friend. Fengzhou, how lucky was he to know him? Fengzhou, I've advanced. A happy smile bloomed on his baby face. It was an unreserved happy smile. It was a pure and bright smile. When people saw it, they couldn't help but smile as well. Even if there were thousands of words in his heart, even if he was endlessly grateful, he couldn't say it out loud. He, Duan Yi, would always remember his kindness for nurturing him. Yes, it's good that you've advanced. There were no superfluous words, nor was there any superfluous praise. It was just a simple sentence, but it made Duan Ye's mood soar. He was as happy as a child who had received candy. He got up and walked to the side of the red figure. With a light tone and a smile, he asked, "Am I the first to advance?" During this period of cultivation, he had blocked his six senses and immersed himself in cultivation. He did not know how the others were doing. "That's right, you're the first to advance. Let's go. I'll take you to see them." She chuckled and walked with him to the other side. Inside the barrier, the four of them set up spirit-gathering arrays in four different directions. When the two of them arrived at where the other three people were, they looked at them one by one. Finally, they stopped at the spirit-gathering formation where Songming was. "After you, the next one to enter the Gold Core realm should be Songming," Fengjiu said as he looked at Songming, who was sitting cross-legged with a strong aura of spiritual power surging from his body. "I can stand guard for him." Chapter 1157. Hearing this, Fengjiu nodded. "All right, then I'll tell you some things." She sat down with him under the tree and told him about the things he needed to pay attention to. She then said, "There are people watching outside, but don't worry about them. They won't dare to come in. I'll get Tun Yun to guard by the side. There shouldn't be any problems." "All right, I got it. Don't worry." He nodded in response. Seeing this, Fengjiu walked back into the cave and returned to the space to cultivate. After another half a month, when the sound of heavenly thunder rang out again, the people who were training outside were stunned, especially when they saw that the place where the heavenly thunder gathered was the same place from half a month ago. They were even more dumbfounded. "Are you sure? Why is it that place again? Fuck. What kind of person was advancing? Did these people come here on purpose to advance their cultivation? It's only been half a month, and someone else is advancing. Could it be a member of a large family inside?" With doubts and curiosity surging from the bottom of their hearts, they once again went to that place. However, this time, no one dared to explore that place again. Those who had entered that place had all died. It was so strange that they could die. They did not dare to gamble with their own lives. When they arrived at that place, the second bolt of heavenly thunder had already fallen. Hearing the rumbling sound inside, they couldn't help but feel envious. There were really many people advancing. The further a cultivator went, the more they could advance. However, the people inside only entered once every half a month. It shouldn't be the same person, right? That's right, how could it be the same person? They should be from the same family. They wandered around outside and watched until the third bolt of heavenly thunder fell. No one dared to barge into the array again. Thus, one by one, they left one after another. No matter how good others were, they were still others. They didn't advance by themselves. It was better not to care so much and just take care of their own matters. Inside the barrier, just as Fengjiu had expected, after Duan Yi, Songming entered the Gold Core realm. When Songming opened his eyes and saw Duan Yi who was guarding him, he couldn't help but jump up. "You've already advanced. You're actually faster than me." Duan Yi glanced at him and said, "It's normal to be faster than you. Fengjiu said that I deserve to be first." He raised his chin a little proudly. Hearing this, he curled his lips. "Come on. When did you enter the Gold Core realm?" "Half a month ago." Duan Yi said. "Pfft. You're only half a month faster than me. Hearing this, Duan couldn't be bothered to argue with him. Fengjiu went into the cave to cultivate after I advanced. I was in charge of guarding you guys. Now that you've entered the gold core, we'll be in charge of the remaining 2 people. Don't worry. I don't need you to tell me that. Who told us to be brothers? Right? He smiled and patted Duan's shoulder. Together with Duan, he went to Ning Lang and Luo Fei to take a look. Who do you think will break through first? Song Ming asked. It must be Luo Fei. Duan said. That's true, but there are exceptions to everything. Why don't we make a bet? Song Ming grinned and suggested. Bet? Forget it. I don't play this game. Duan waved his hand and said. Chapter 1158. In the next 2 months, Luo Fei and Ning Lang advanced only a few days apart, and for this place, the sound of thunder from time to time, everyone in the periphery was already used to it. At first, they were surprised, then shocked, and then they didn't feel anything. He didn't need to look to know that it was the people in the array that were advancing. In the face of such strong people, they didn't dare to provoke them casually. Some of them even planned to send people to guard there, thinking that when they came out, they would take the opportunity to make friends with them. On this day, Duan, Ning Lang and the other 2 sat together, facing each other silently. At this time, their mood was complicated, because the 1-year period was up. If it weren't for Fengjiu still in the cave, they should have left here and parted ways. This year really passed quickly. It feels like time has passed in the blink of an eye. Song Ming said with emotion, thinking that they would have to part once the 1-year period was up. He couldn't help but feel reluctant. When I think of parting with Fengjiu, I feel uncomfortable. Duan's baby face had no smile at this time, only sadness and reluctance. Yes. Me too. I want to go home. I want to follow Fengjiu around. It must be more interesting than staying at home to settle accounts. Ning Lang held his chubby chin with both hands. Even if he entered the gold core stage and became a gold core stage cultivator, he didn't look like a gold core cultivator at all. On the contrary, he looked like a brat. Didn't Fengjiu say that he would take us back to the academy? Don't worry, we will be with him for a while. Moreover, even if we part ways, we can go find him in the future. Luo Fei said, looking at the others and said, didn't he come from a 6-star academy? If we know where he is, we are not afraid of not being able to find him. Hearing this, the few of them glanced at him and said, have you cultivated too much? Have you forgotten that he has another identity, the ghost doctor? That identity of a 6-star academy student, I don't know if it is fake. Then we can ask him. After being together for so long, he won't refuse to tell us where his home is, right? That's hard to say. Ning Lang continued, although I didn't pay much attention to it in the past, I do know that the ghost doctor's reputation is very resounding. Many forces want to find him. However, it's said that other than the black market, which is on good terms with the ghost doctor, those people don't know the ghost doctor's true identity or which country he is from. Could he be from a first-class country? How is that possible? Why would someone from a first-class country go to a 6-star academy? This is also hard to say. After getting along with him for so long, you also know that his temperament is very strange. For a person from a first-class country to go to a 6-star academy, what is so strange about that? Hearing this, they didn't say anything else because they felt that it was possible. Doesn't Devouring Cloud know? Why don't we ask it? Ning Lang's eyes lit up when he saw Tun Yun lying outside the cave. Getting a cloud to speak is harder than getting a rock to speak. Forget it. Luo Fei waved his hand. While they were talking, they suddenly felt that the aura in the air seemed to be somewhat different. They couldn't help but be startled. They quickly stood up and looked towards the sky. They saw a layer of black clouds floating in the sky. A surge of aura seemed to cover the entire sky. Chapter 1159. This is. The few of them were shocked as they stared in shock at the billowing dust and clouds in the sky. They could feel a powerful and intimidating aura in the air. They were so shocked that they couldn't speak. Especially when they saw that the aura seemed to be surrounding the cave where Fingzhou was, they were even more shocked. Could something have happened to Fingzhou inside? They were worried and wanted to go in to take a look. However, before they could get close, they were ejected by a powerful force. The few of them were thrown a few meters away and fell to the ground. Pfft! Blood flowed from their mouths as they clutched their chests and stood up. They saw Tan Yun approaching them and looking at them strangely. What are you doing? Aren't you afraid of hurting yourselves by barging in like this? Do you think you can just barge into my master's cave? He rolled his eyes and looked at the few of them who were clutching their chests in shock. It was obvious that they didn't understand why they were ejected. Thus, he shook his head and said, "My master is advancing. Her advancement is different from yours. She has entered the nascent soul stage." How should I put it? Tan Yun thought for a while and decided not to tell them that her contracted beast was an ancient divine beast. He guessed that the changes in the sky caused by her advancement to the nascent soul stage had something to do with the ancient divine beast, Fire Phoenix, who was meditating in her space. After all, the Fire Phoenix had been meditating for a long time. It was said that she was about to reach adulthood. Perhaps this was the opportunity. The few of them were relieved after hearing Tan Yun's words. So it was because Fingzhou was about to advance that there was so much movement. Although they didn't know why there was such a huge movement when one entered the nascent soul stage, they knew from Tan Yun's expression that Fingzhou's life was not in danger. Thus, they were relieved. However, because the power of heaven and earth surging from Fengzhou's advancement was too strong, the people in the forest, who had become accustomed to this kind of advancement, were once again shocked. Because the movement was different from before, this time, they all gathered their qi and came over. Advancing one after another, there must be some treasure here. That's right. Otherwise, it's impossible for her to advance every once in a while. Furthermore, there are formations and boundaries set up in that place. It's obviously a treasure ground. This time, we must break the formations and boundaries and see what's going on. There were at least dozens of cultivators in the outer forest, including rogue cultivators and clans. At this moment, they were attacking from all over the place. They were determined to break the array formation here and see what was going on. The speed at which Fengzhou entered the nascent soul stage was not as fast as Duan Yi and the others. Instead, the clouds in the sky were still surging. The cave she was in was still madly absorbing the surrounding spiritual aura. The cave was like a bottomless vortex at this time, sucking in all the spiritual aura. What a strong suction force. There must be some kind of treasure inside. Look, what's going on over there? Why are the trees in this area withering so quickly? Chapter 1160. How could this be? The vitality of these trees. Everyone looked at the trees in the forest in shock. Even the weeds growing on the ground were turning yellow and withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if their vitality was being sucked out and they were withering rapidly. The originally lush and verdant forest had turned into a ghost forest due to the extraction of life force and the absorption of spiritual force. This caused the cultivators in the forest to tremble in fear and disbelief. How could such a big forest suddenly become like this? What on earth was the person inside the formation doing? It actually sucked away all the spiritual energy and life force in this forest. It was simply too abominable. This was to cut off their cultivation resources. This was to make it impossible for them to establish a foothold in the outer circle. This was to kill them all. No matter who it was, they would not allow such a thing to happen. Similarly, they would not allow it. They had to stop that person. Thinking about this, everyone sped up and arrived outside the formation. There were more than 200 cultivators gathered here. They looked at the sky changing color and the wind blowing on the ground. The spirit force in the air was quickly sucked in, and even the trees were rapidly withering. Someone among them shouted, "Brother, let's go." Who knows about formations? Those who know about formations, come out. Let's join forces and break this formation. Let's see who is destroying the vitality and cultivation resources here. The person who shouted was a cultivator at the peak of the Gold Core realm. His voice spread around and clearly entered the ears of the surrounding people. Naturally, it also entered the ears of Duan Yi and the others inside the formation. Just as the people outside who knew about formations and formations walked out one after another, Duan Yi and the others inside the formation were also very stunned. They could not help but feel nervous and nervous. What should we do? It seems that we've attracted a lot of people. Are they going to deal with us? Ning Lang asked anxiously. Feng Jiu is advancing. No matter what, we have to guard him so that he can advance in peace. If those people dare to come in, I'll kill them all. Duan Yi said fiercely. He summoned his contract beast and prepared for battle. That's right. No matter what, we have to protect Feng Jiu and let him advance in peace. This is what we should do and must do. Song Ming said as he held a long sword in his hand. Luo Fei looked at the surrounding trees in a daze. He was a little stunned. After a long time, he murmured, "When I received the news last time, it said that Feng Jiu entered the Holy Land to train and destroyed the spiritual power and vitality inside. I always thought that they were making a fuss and exaggerating the matter, but looking at the scene in front of me, I finally understand." The trees in front of him were withering at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if their vitality was being sucked out, and so was their spiritual aura. All of them were rushing towards the cave mansion. Such a scene was so unbelievable. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. However, why was it that Feng Jiu's advancement was not like this for others? It was the same when he entered the Golden Core stage in the Holy Land of the Academy. Now, it was the same when he entered the Nascent Soul stage here. Could it be that there was some secret in his body? Otherwise, how could there be such a shocking change? Bang bang. Chapter 1161. It should be because the cultivators outside are working together to break the formation, Song Ming said with a serious expression. Although they were Golden Core cultivators, they had not been in the Golden Core realm for a long time. If they were to really fight, it would be difficult for them to display the combat power that Golden Core cultivators should have. In addition, there were only 4 of them and 2 beasts outside. If they were to really fight, even if there were more of them, they would not be able to withstand the siege of hundreds of people outside. Just stay inside this barrier, Duan Yi said, then looked at them and said, Feng Jiu told us not to leave this barrier. I'm afraid this barrier won't be able to hold for that long, Ning Lang said as he walked around. As Ning Lang spoke, he walked around and looked at the cave residents from time to time. He wondered why the first heavenly thunder hadn't struck down even though the wind and clouds had been surging in the sky for so long. We have to hold on even if we can't, Luo Fei said. Luo Fei said, if the barrier can't hold on, then we'll have to. Although there are only 4 of us, we have the Divine Beast, Devouring Cloud, and the Divine Beast, Flame Beast. If Old Eagle can come back, then it might be even better. We have to hold on no matter what. I believe that as long as we work together, we can definitely hold on until Phoenix 9 finishes her advancement. That's right. We have to hold on even if we can't. As they spoke, they looked at each other and reached out to shake hands. This is what we have to do. Fingzhou had protected them and protected them. Now, it was their turn to protect him. Tun Yun squatted at the side and looked up without saying a word. He only looked at them, then turned back to look at the sky and the cave residence that was absorbing the aura of the surrounding spiritual power. How long would Master's advancement last this time? Outsiders did not know that at this moment, not only was the spiritual power surging in Fingzhou's body, but his body was also absorbing the vitality of the surrounding trees. Even the ancient divine beast Fire Phoenix, who was meditating in his space, had a slight change at this moment. This made Lao Bai, who was guarding inside, not dare to approach. He could only hide far away and observe quietly. In the space, the curled-up flame was spinning in the flames like a newborn baby. The spiritual power that surged in from outside also increased his cultivation speed, and his body also underwent some subtle changes. And this was something that outsiders would never know. Sitting cross-legged in Fingzhou's dantian, the green lotus in Fingzhou's dantian was emitting a green light. It was rapidly absorbing the vitality outside, greedily swallowing it. It was an uncontrollable absorption. Even Fingzhou could not stop it. Otherwise, she would not have allowed herself to continue absorbing and cause such a huge commotion. However, when he first advanced, his body would freely absorb the spiritual energy and life force from the outside. After all of it entered his body, Fingzhou could gradually control it after a few attempts. But even so, the life force that had been absorbed could no longer be sent back because the trees had lost their life force. What was left was just a withered tree. Boom! The first bolt of heavenly thunder rumbled across the sky and struck down from the sky. Its momentum was so strong that it shocked the people outside who were breaking the formation. They all squatted down. The entire ground seemed to have cracked open. Faintly, they could hear a loud cracking sound coming from within the barrier. It was as if something had cracked open. Chapter 1162. Looking back, they saw a crack in the cave residence. The crack spread little by little until a huge rock rolled down with a crack. Hiss! They gasped and couldn't help but feel a little scared. Is Fingzhou okay inside? He hasn't come out yet. If the cave residence collapses, will he be buried alive? What are you talking about? How is that possible? Ning Lang glared at Luo Fei, but his palms were sweating because of nervousness. They stood guard and waited inside, feeling even more uneasy than when they themselves advanced. On the one hand, they were worried that the people outside would break the formation and rush in. On the other hand, they were worried that something would happen to Fingzhou. After all, there were people who succeeded in advancing to the Golden Core realm, and the success rate was also high. However, it was not easy to advance to the nascent soul realm. Fortunately, he was an alchemist and pharmacist, so he should have some things that could help him. Otherwise, if it were other people, they would definitely die. The heavenly thunder of the nascent soul realm was not easy to bear. Without medicine or pills, who would dare to suddenly try to break through to the nascent soul realm? Outside, those people were also anxious. They wanted to get in after the 3 heavenly thunder strikes. Otherwise, if the other party succeeded in advancing and his strength increased greatly, it would be extremely disadvantageous for them. However, the faster they wanted to go, the harder it was to get out of the formation. In addition, the formations set by Fingzhou were formations within formations. How could they be so easy to break one after another? After the first heavenly thunder strike, the second heavenly thunder strike did not strike until evening. This made the cultivators outside happy. Seeing that the sky was dark, they hurriedly prepared torches, hoping to find a way to break the formation. At this time, after a whole day, they had already broken 2 formations in a row. However, there were formations within formations, and there were also traps in the formations, which were impossible to guard against. The further they went, the slower the speed of breaking the formations. Boom! At midnight, when the entire forest was enveloped in a strange aura, when the cultivators who were trying to break the formation couldn't withstand the intense tension and rested, a bolt of lightning streaked across the pitch-black sky and struck down with a loud rumble. The second bolt of lightning struck down, startling everyone who was resting on the ground. They rubbed their eyes and tried to break the formation again with the help of the torches. However, the darkness of the night made it very inconvenient to break the formation. Not only did they fail to break it, many people died because they accidentally touched the mechanisms in the formation. This made those people unwillingly stop in the end. The light wasn't good, they couldn't break the formation. They couldn't disregard their own lives for the sake of breaking the formation. They weren't selfless enough to sacrifice their lives for others. Within the barrier, Duan Yi, Ning Lang, and the others did not dare to close their eyes. They stood guard within the barrier and counted the sounds of the heavenly lightning. When the second bolt of lightning fell, they could not help but exhale gently. The second bolt of lightning. There was only one bolt left. There was only one bolt left. Originally, they thought that Fengjiu's speed of entering the nascent soul stage would be very slow. It might even take 10 days to half a month for him to complete his advancement. However, now that the second bolt of lightning had fallen, they only had to wait for the last one. Chapter 1163. As the first ray of the morning sun shone into the forest, the warm sunlight did not bring much warmth to the people in the forest. Because, looking at the bare branches, there was not a single green leaf. Looking at the withered weeds, there was not a single drop of water. Even the birds in the forest could not be attracted. One could tell how oppressive the atmosphere was and how strange it was. If it was during the day, it would be one thing, and one would get used to it. But at night, this place was like a ghost forest. It was no wonder that everyone was angry, because all the trees in this forest were dead, and the beasts that were active in this forest had all fled to other places. Even some cultivators who wanted to have a good meal couldn't bring back half a prey. The dark clouds in the sky were still surging, and from time to time, the whistling wind made the forest look like a ghost forest. Some people even felt that the chilling wind in the forest in the morning made their hair stand on end. How is it? We still can't break the formation from yesterday until now. Why don't we use fire to see if we can burn our way in? Someone loudly suggested, but was immediately opposed by others. Definitely not. If we could use fire, we wouldn't have waited until now. This formation is a formation within a formation, one after another. It's already not easy to break two of them. Then what do we do? It's been so long, if this continues, maybe the people inside will finish advancing. Hearing this, more than 200 people fell silent for a moment. They felt that there must be treasures in this place. Otherwise, it would be impossible for someone to set up such a complicated array and barrier in this place, and even advance one after another. Why don't we use the earth escape technique? Someone shouted, there are so many of us here, shouldn't there be an earth attribute cultivator? Let's use the earth escape technique to go underground and take a look. However, after hearing that person's words, everyone looked at him strangely as if he had said something strange. After glancing at that cultivator, no one paid attention to him, and they continued to discuss with the people beside them. Seeing this, the person scratched his head and asked the person beside him, did I say something wrong? That's because you don't understand the earth attribute. Even if someone knows the earth escape technique, it's useless. They can pass through the formation, but they can't pass through the barrier. Do you know how deep they have to go in order to pass through the barrier? I don't know. Can't we just drill into the ground? That person asked. TSK. Don't shout if you don't know. the person next to him said, and ignored him. A day passed just like that. Seeing the arrival of evening and the sky gradually darkening, everyone couldn't help but feel anxious. If they still couldn't break the formation even when the sky was dark, would the third heavenly lightning strike just like that? Just as he was thinking about it, the clouds in the sky began to churn and a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. The last bolt of lightning struck down with a thunderous boom. In an instant, not only did the aura of the lightning strike spread out, but the powerful pressure of a nascent soul cultivator also spread out. It was like a huge rock being thrown into the sea, splashing up waves. The powerful airflow and pressure that spread out directly surged out of the barrier like stormy waves. Seeing this scene, Duan Yi pulled Ning Lang beside him and shouted at Song Ming and Luo Fei, "Get down." Chapter 1164. The strong airflow swept across their bodies like water ripples. Layer after layer of water ripples pushed them outwards. They were lying on the ground, unable to raise their heads to look, because the dust and fallen leaves on the ground had been swept up, making it impossible for them to open their eyes. The powerful airflow surged out of the barrier layer by layer, pushing the cultivators out of the barrier. Some were pushed into the barrier and killed by the mechanisms, while others fled in panic and fell to the ground in panic. The air current surged outwards, stirring up dust. The flying sand and fallen leaves covered everyone. At this moment, everyone closed their eyes and wrapped their heads with their robes to prevent the wind and sand from entering their eyes. Therefore, no one noticed that when the heavenly thunder struck down and the surrounding airflow was still surging, a fiery light soared into the sky. The fiery light formed a phoenix with folded wings and rushed into the pitch-black night sky. It was extremely dazzling in the night sky. A sound similar to the cry of a phoenix spread across the sky in the pitch-black night and reverberated for a long time. None of the people in the periphery saw it, but there were people in the depths of the forest who saw it. Almost at the same time that the phoenix flames soared into the sky and the cries of the phoenix filled the air, some of the cultivators in the depths of the forest immediately flew over on their flying swords from all directions. The experts in the forest came from the 8 great empires, a place known as the City in the Sky. Even if they used secret techniques and treasures, they couldn't instantly arrive at the periphery from the depths of the forest. The fastest to arrive at the outer region was a gray-robed old man. He used less than an hour to arrive from the inner region. With a swoosh, his figure streaked across the night sky like a shooting star. The night sky was filled with a radiance that was as dazzling as the moon. When the old man stood in the air, a powerful pressure that surpassed that of a nascent soul cultivator spread out from his body. When the pressure came out, the faces of the nearly 200 cultivators around him paled. They all knelt down and didn't even dare to raise their heads. "What are you all doing here?" The old and majestic voice came out. It was sharp and cold. The people below all knelt on the ground and trembled. No one dared to answer him, and no one dared to raise their heads to see what kind of person he was until the shout came again. "Speak." One person trembled as he said, "Sir, we want to break the formation, but we can't break it. We can't enter." In midair, when the old man heard the words of the people below, he cast a glance downwards. With a flick of his sleeve, a few explosive sounds could be heard. Soon after, the fog dissipated, the rune was broken, and the scene inside was revealed. After the formation was broken, the old man came down from the sky. His robe fluttered as he walked forward step by step. When he arrived before the formation, he pointed at it. A ray of light streaked across, rippling out like water. With a bang, the enchantment dissipated, and the old man stepped inside. Chapter 1165. Without walking in, the old man's divine sense scanned the area after the boundary was broken and knew that there was no one around. He clasped his hands behind his back and squinted his sharp eyes. He stared at the cave for a long time before turning around to ask, "Who used to live here?" Replying to your question, "We don't know. We haven't seen the person come out." Hearing this, the old man's eyes flashed with a glint. That person should have left. What a sharp person. He rushed from the depths of the forest because he felt the aura of the ancient divine beast. He didn't expect that the person here had already left. However, he could feel that this person had just advanced not long ago. To be able to leave so quickly after advancing, this person's temperament was not ordinary and his sense of crisis was very strong. He really didn't expect that such a person would exist in a mere low-level country. What's wrong with the trees in this area? Why are they all withered? His gaze swept across the surrounding trees and saw that the vitality of those trees had been extracted. He was very surprised. Replying to your question, the person inside is advancing. A gust of wind suddenly rose and rolled into a dragon. Not only did it absorb the surrounding spiritual aura, but it also extracted the vitality of those trees. That's why it became like this. Hearing this, the old man's expression changed slightly. Extracted vitality. What kind of cultivation method was that? Was there such a cultivation method? Was this person from a low-level country? Or was it someone from the 8 great empires who cultivated here? However, he quickly rejected the idea as soon as it appeared. Although the formation and boundary here were set up well, he could see that the strength of the person who set up the formation and boundary was only at the golden core stage. It shouldn't be someone from the 8 great empires. Then, did this person have a great treasure on him? Thinking of this, he flicked his sleeves and rose into the air. He came here from the depths of the forest less than an hour ago. Then, if he wanted to find him, he should be in this area. After the old man left, the person on the ground didn't hear any movement for a while. Only then did he raise his head to look. After seeing that there was no one, he heaved a sigh of relief and stood up. He wiped his cold sweat and rubbed his legs that were still weak. This must be a powerhouse from the 8 great empires. The pressure is too strong. I'm so scared that my legs are still weak. Thankfully, he didn't kill us. That's right. The experts of the 8 great empires are indeed different. The formations and barriers that we have been trying to break for a long time were broken by him the moment he arrived. But, where did the people inside go? How could he not be inside? With all of us here, it's impossible for them to come out. Could he have left by climbing over this mountain? Look at the mountain in this cave. Perhaps they left from here under the cover of the night. However, why would that expert want to find the people inside? Could it be that those people really had treasures on them? Otherwise, how could it attract the experts from the inner circle? As he spoke, several figures appeared in the air with a whoosh and stopped in the sky above them. When they felt the powerful aura emanating from these people, the cultivators who had just stood up quickly fell to their knees. Greetings, venerables. Chapter 1166. The few people who came here at the same time looked at each other, and one of them asked, "What's with that flame?" "Fire, flame. We don't know what kind of flame it is." Impudent. With a deep roar, he released his pressure, causing the blood in everyone's chests to churn and blood to flow from the corners of their mouths. That flame soared into the sky and you all said you didn't see it. The cultivator exuded an oppressive aura that assaulted the crowd below, rendering them speechless for a long time. Seeing this, one of the female cultivators covered her mouth and chuckled, "Why are you being so impulsive?" Perhaps they really didn't see it. When the male cultivator saw this, he didn't say anything else. He waved his sleeve and stood with his hands behind his back, clearly intending for her to ask. The female cultivator chuckled and looked at the people below, asking, "Then what do you all know?" Tell me about it. It's estimated that someone has advanced here, and it's not just once, so we were curious and wanted to see if there were any treasures inside. It's just that we couldn't break the formation and barrier here even after breaking it for a long time. Previously, a senior came here and broke the formation and barrier here. Only then did we find out that the person inside had already left. That senior probably went to look for it and went in that direction. As the cultivator spoke, he pointed in the direction of the mountain and wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead. Only the heavens knew how much fear he had to endure to not stutter. Hearing the words of the person below, the people in the air glanced at each other and flew in the direction of the mountain one after another. It wasn't until those people left the mountain that the people below let out a sigh of relief and quickly scattered. They didn't dare to gather together in case they couldn't find the person they wanted and came back to vent their anger on them. At the same time, in another part of the forest, Feng Jiu and the others quickly skimmed through the forest for a long time before they stopped. Take a break. Remember, if someone comes looking for you, you must remain calm and don't mention what happened before. She calmly warned them. When they heard this, they glanced at each other and asked, "Why did we run away after coming out? We even snuck away. Even if you entered the nascent soul stage, it shouldn't be a big deal, right?" They were really shocked by him. Not long after the 3 bolts of lightning struck, he came out. They didn't know what happened, but he quickly led them away and didn't stop for such a long distance. Entering the nascent soul stage will cause too much of a commotion. It will definitely alert the experts in the depths of the Hell Mountain range. If we can avoid it, we're not their match. She spoke slowly. She knew that none of them had seen the fire phoenix soar into the sky, but they had heard a sound similar to the cry of a phoenix. You're talking about the sound. Why was there a phoenix's sound? That sound. They Fengjiu, Fengjibe, Fengjibes, Fengjibe. Also, why did his, when he's nascent, jibe? That's my contracted beast. Chapter 1167. Will they find us here? Ning Lang asked worriedly. Maybe. She looked at them. That's why I want you to stay calm. In front of an absolute powerhouse, life and death can be decided in an instant. Hearing this, their hearts trembled. They knew the seriousness of the matter, so they sat together to discuss countermeasures. They're heading towards the mountain peak. Fortunately, we're not going there. Luo Fei said and looked at Fengjiu. He had concealed his nascent soul aura. If they didn't know that he had already entered the nascent soul stage, they wouldn't have been able to tell that he was already a nascent soul cultivator. Rest. There's no need to hide anymore. If we continue to hide and get discovered, the situation will be very bad. Just follow the countermeasures we discussed just now. Fengjiu gestured. The sky was not bright yet, so he asked them to sit under a tree and rest. The few of them nodded and sat down under the tree to rest. 2 hours later, a powerful aura suddenly attacked them. A pressure that no one could ignore enveloped them and woke them up with a start. Actually, they had already woken up. After all, who could sleep at this time? However, they were all smart people. Who didn't know how to pretend? Who's there? Fengjiu asked and looked at the sky. There, a gray-robed elder stood in the air. His robes fluttered in the wind and a strong pressure spread out from his body. That kind of pressure was definitely not something that a golden core cultivator could withstand. Because of this, Duan Yi and the others who stood behind him were pale. The blood in their bodies surged and a trace of blood flowed out of their mouths. Beads of cold sweat seeped out of their foreheads. They felt as if someone was strangling their throats, making it difficult for them to breathe. When Fengjiu saw this, he also secretly forced a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. He hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed with difficulty. "Greetings, Senior." Their expressions and actions were all seen by the gray-robed elder. He stood in mid-air and sized up the few youths below. Seeing that they were all at the gold course stage, there was nothing out of the ordinary. However, the red-robed youth in front of him surprised him a little. Under his pressure, he actually knew how to salute. Therefore, he retracted his aura and asked in a low voice, "Who are you? Why are you here?" When the pressure was withdrawn, it was as if a huge rock had been removed from their chests. They couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief, but they didn't dare to relax. Duan Yi and the others directly fell to the ground after the other party withdrew his pressure. Their faces were slightly pale as if they were frightened, and their bodies trembled as they fell to the ground. Only Fengzhou managed to catch his breath and respectfully replying to Senior, "We are the sons of noble families who were training in the outer regions. Because the sky was dark, we decided to rest in the forest." "Did you hear or see anything unusual?" the old man asked again, his gaze falling on Fengzhou. "Abnormal. I think I heard the cry of a phoenix when I was sleeping, but it disappeared after a while," Ning Lang said as he wiped the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. "Yes, that's right. Someone should have advanced before this. We also heard the sound of heavenly thunder. It seems to have come from that direction." Song Ming nodded and pointed in the direction they were originally at. Hearing this, the old man narrowed his eyes and asked, "Since you heard the thunder, aren't you curious? Didn't you think about going over to take a look?" Chapter 1168. The one who spoke was Luo Fei. He looked at the old man and said, "Senior, you don't know, but there seems to be a formation set up there. There are many cultivators there. We only have a few people, so we don't dare to go forward." "Don't dare to go forward." The old man's gaze swept over them, as if he was thinking about their words. Ning Lang's chubby face had a silly smile. He scratched his head and said, "Yes. Before I left Yemen, my father told me not to squeeze with people in crowded places, not to fight for things with others." "Senior, is there something wrong?" Hearing this, the old man stared at Ning Lang for a while and asked, "Did you see anyone suspicious passing by this area?" "Suspicious person?" Fengzhou thought for a while and said, "I think there was one, but I couldn't see him clearly. I only knew that it was a middle-aged man in gray clothes. He flew through the forest with a sword very low and disappeared in a while. We thought it was someone else, so we didn't dare to make a sound." The old man's expression changed and asked, "Where did he go?" It was reasonable for a middle-aged man to be able to enter the nascent soul realm. As for the few youths in front of him, a few of them were early golden core cultivators. The young man in red was a middle golden core cultivator. Therefore, he wouldn't think that these people were the same as the person he was looking for. Seeing that the old man flicked his sleeves and left after glancing at them, the few of them looked at each other and sat down under the tree. "The crisis was over, right? We'll leave at dawn." Fengzhou, who was sitting against the tree, said. He looked at the sky and said, "You guys sleep. I'll keep watch." The few of them looked at each other and thought for a while, then said, "We can't sleep either. Why don't we leave now?" Hearing this, Fengzhou smiled. "Scared? Scared? No, but that person's cultivation was very strong. We couldn't see through him, so he's definitely not a nascent soul cultivator." "Yes, he's not a nascent soul cultivator. Someone who can enter the depths of the Hell Mountain range is definitely not a nascent soul cultivator," she said softly as she looked at the twinkling stars in the pitch-black sky. Her gaze softened. She had entered the nascent soul stage. Even though the 10-year period was not up yet, she could go to the 8 great empires. However, Before that, she had to go to a first-tier country and bring her mother back to reunite with her father. Only then could she be at ease and leave for the 8 great empires. Hearing this, everyone's hearts trembled and they asked, then what's above the nascent soul stage? In all the big and small countries, even in a first-class country, the highest level of cultivation was the nascent soul stage. Then, what was the level above the nascent soul stage? Was it like the previous expert who possessed a powerful pressure and aura? It was as if a single glance or a single strand of divine sense could kill them all. Was it that powerful? What's the level above the nascent soul stage? Fengjiu murmured to himself. After a long time, he smiled and said, since we haven't come into contact with it yet, it's pointless to say it. When we come into contact with it in the future, we will naturally know. Chapter 1169. The few of them were not sleepy, so they chatted there until dawn. Only then did they prepare to leave, planning to leave this place first. However, just as they were about to leave on their swords, a giant snake appeared 10 meters in front of them. It raised its head and flicked its tongue at them. Ah! Snake! Ning Lang was startled and cried out in surprise. His early morning cry broke the tranquility of the forest and alerted the others in an instant. Is this the snake you were talking about? Duan Yi looked at Fengjiu and asked. Why is this snake chasing after you? Song Ming asked curiously. But when did this snake come? None of us noticed it. Luo Fei was surprised. If this snake attacked them and they did not know, then, Fengjiu also found it strange. Why didn't this snake attack them? Moreover, it lurked 10 meters away without making a sound. They were too careless. Hiss. When the snake saw Fengjiu looking at it, it made a hissing sound and wriggled its body forward. Let's go. This snake is poisonous. Fengjiu gestured for them to fly up on their swords and avoid the snake. Hearing this, they flew up on their swords and waited for him in the air. Fengjiu also threw out a feather and sat on it to leave. Unexpectedly, the snake suddenly jumped up and slapped its tail on the ground. Not long after, it spat out a lot of things. There were chinquan pouches, jade pendants, short daggers, and some glowing treasures. All of them were piled up in a small pile in front of her. It nudged the pile with its snake head, then looked at Fengjiu who was in midair and hissed. Wow! These are all valuable things. Ning Lang's eyes lit up. He looked at Fengjiu and asked, is it giving these things to you? Duan Yi and the others also looked at Fengjiu. A snake spat those things out to Fengjiu. How strange. Fengjiu was also stunned. I don't know either. Last time, it chased after me with a group of small snakes. But this time, there seems to be only one of them around. Those chinquan bags and whatnot were probably taken from the people he ate. As for why he gave them to me, I really don't know. Shall we go down and get it? Ning Lang suggested. Go down. Aren't you afraid of being swallowed by a snake? Luo Fei glanced at him and said. I don't think so. Look at it, it doesn't look like it wants to deal with us. Also, look. That was a small mountain of treasures, and there was already so much outside. Who knew how much more was in the chinquan bag? If we don't take the treasure when it's right in front of us, it's not right. Seeing this, Fengjiu sat on flying feather and flew lower. He looked at the giant snake and asked, is this for me? Hiss. The giant snake hissed as if it could understand Fengjiu's words. It nodded as if it could understand her. It made sense. Sacred beasts had spiritual intelligence, so it was normal for them to understand. Is it really for me? She was a little surprised and asked again. She had moved the spiritual fruit tree back into the space. This snake had wanted to eat her for a long time. Why was it suddenly so kind? Hiss. Chapter 1170. Seeing this, she got down from the flying feather and walked to the pile of treasures. With a flick of her sleeve, she kept all of them into her space. At this moment, she saw the snake slapping its tail and lying on the ground, hissing. It looked like it wanted to come forward but was afraid of scaring her away. She couldn't help but laugh. I'll accept this. As the gift goes, I'll give you something too. She threw out a medicine bottle. The giant snake caught it and bit it in its mouth. The thing in this bottle can help you enter the level of a divine beast. Consider it my compensation to you. With that, she stepped onto the flying feather and returned to their side. Seeing the giant snake below raise its head and shake its tail, as if it was saying goodbye to them, the few of them only felt surprised and astonished. Snakes were cold-blooded animals. They were the most emotionless creatures. Snakes gave people the impression that they were ferocious, bloodthirsty, cold, and heartless. They didn't expect that this venomous snake with a big meat bump on its head would give them a gift. Alright, let's go. We shouldn't stay here for long. Fengjiu said and flew them out of the forest. Compared to when they first came in, they were already very familiar with the way out after living here for almost a year. When they came in, they were only in the foundation establishment stage. A year later, they were already golden core cultivators. Just thinking about it made them excited. They reckoned that when they returned home, their families would be very happy to see their improvement in strength. With a happy mood, they flew out on their swords. However, when they left the forest and arrived at the tree spirit forest where they couldn't fly, Fengjiu made a sound of surprise before they even landed. What's wrong? The few people beside her asked. Look at that person below. Doesn't he look familiar? She gestured and pointed at the intersection of the two forests below. There was a disheveled figure hidden in the ravine. Familiar? We don't know anyone here, so we probably have a lot of enemies. As Luo Fei spoke, he looked down and saw that the figure was filthy and could still move. However, it seemed to be injured, and that was all there was to it. Who is it? Ning Lang asked. He looked down and didn't recognize the person. Let's go down and take a look. As soon as Fengjiu finished speaking, Feiyu had already descended from the sky. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the bottom of the mountain and walked towards the ravine. The person hiding in the ditch seemed to have sensed someone's arrival, but he didn't move or run. He just sat there, leaning against the mud and chewing on the bark. Fengjiu walked closer step by step. When he saw that person, he couldn't help but be startled. It's you. This person was none other than the Golden Core mercenary who had led the way. He was also the one who had spoken out to help them. However, why was he here? And he ended up in such a sorry state. Ah. You're that mercenary. Ning Lang also recognized him and exclaimed, how did you end up like this? Hearing this, Duan Yi and Luo Fei also remembered that person. However, they didn't expect that mercenary to be like this. What happened? In any case, he was a golden core cultivator. How did he end up in such a sorry state? The mercenary who was chewing on the bark raised his head and looked at them. There was a hint of surprise in his calm eyes. So it's you. Chapter 1171. Be careful. Try not to move his leg. Okay. The few of them responded and jumped down to work together to move him out. Seeing this, the mercenary was startled. He only looked at them for a long time before lowering his eyes. The few of them moved him to a flat area and let him sit against a rock. Only then did they smile and say, okay, this should be enough. Fengjiu took out some food and water from his space and handed it to him. Eat something first and drink some water to moisten your throat. Thank you. He opened his cracked lips and thanked them. He reached out to take the food and water. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. While he was eating, Fengjiu checked the wounds on his body. There were wounds on his arms and back. Although they were not deep, they had worsened due to improper treatment. The most serious one was the wound on his left leg. Not only was it fractured, but it was also badly mutilated. It should have been caused by a wild claw. Your injuries are not light, especially this leg. Fengjiu said and stopped because he was still eating. Yes, I can only wait for death here. He smiled, but that smile carried a bit of sorrow. Maybe it would be better to just die. Waiting for death like this is really worse than death. Abandoned by the team, abandoned by his companions. He really wanted to ask them, why didn't they just give him a quick death? Wouldn't that be better? The team leader he had followed for so many years, the brothers who had gone through fire and water many times, had abandoned him, who was injured and could not walk. He did not know what he was doing alive. He knew that he would either be killed here sooner or later, or be dragged away by the ferocious beasts, but he still used the dagger they left for him to peel the bark and eat under his extreme hunger. It turned out that human nature could be so selfish. It turned out that what brothers said about being able to support each other through life and death was all a lie. When he was abandoned by the brigade, none of the brothers who he had saved in the past stood up for him. Those brothers who were extremely friendly in the past, when he could not walk or fight, only looked at him coldly. They even took away his chinkuan bag. He only left him with a rusty dagger. A rusty dagger. Fengjiu looked at him. His entire person was different from when they first met. There was no longer any spirit in his eyes, and there was no longer any vitality in his body. There was only coldness, sorrow, and an extremely disappointed aura. Without asking what he had been through, Fengjiu only said, "Bear with it. I'll treat your wound." Then, he gestured for them to take off his clothes and his dirty pants, revealing the wound on his thigh. "Luo Fei, find a branch for him to bite on," she instructed without raising her head. "No need, this pain is nothing," he said, then said to Fengjiu, "I can bear it." Hearing this, Fengjiu looked at him, then nodded. He took out a small knife and removed the infected and rotting flesh on his arm and back. Then, he used medicinal wine to clean the wound, applied medicine, and bandaged it. After treating the wound on his arm and back, Fengjiu took care of the wound on his thigh. Other than the wound, there was also a fracture, which was more troublesome. Chapter 1172. Don't I look like one? Yes, he looked at Fengjiu who was treating the mercenary's wound without looking up, and said, "You're very skilled. Maybe it's because I'm often injured or bandaged." Speaking of this, she looked up and smiled at him. "However, I'm not like you, who would easily save people and fight for justice." The mercenary was stunned. He knew that the young man was talking about how he had protected them when they first met. However, just as he was distracted by the young man's words, he suddenly heard a cracking sound. He let out a muffled groan as sweat dripped from his forehead. "All right, I've fixed the dislocated bone for you. The next step is to apply medicine and fix it." As she spoke, she looked up at him and saw that he was sweating profusely. She smiled and said, "Don't worry, it won't hurt later." A few people at the side grinned. "You're really lucky to meet us here. Otherwise, if it wasn't for the ferocious beasts, you would probably have died here." "All right, don't be so long-winded. See if anyone has clothes in their chinkuan bag that he can wear. Give him a set." After Fengjiu quickly treated the mercenary's wound and fixed his broken leg, he walked to the side and washed his hands with water. "He's so big, he definitely won't be able to wear our clothes. However, among the things we obtained, there are many other people's clothes. There should be something that he can wear. As Ning Lang spoke, he took out a chinquan bag and rummaged through it. Not long after, he found a set of clothes and compared it to the mercenary's body, and smiled. Yes, this should be fine. Come, I have something to tell you. Luo Fei pulled Feng Zhou to the side and asked in a low voice, what do we do now? There's one more person. Should we wait here for him to recover and leave together? Yes, let's wait for his leg to recover and leave together. Feng Zhou nodded and said. Are we really leaving together? Broken bones can't be healed in a few days. Luo Fei looked at the mercenary over there. Although he felt that it was quite pitiful for him to be alone, they had to accompany him here for half a month. Feng Zhou smiled. No need. Let him rest for a while. He'll be able to leave in less than 3 days. Ah. How could this be? That's a fracture. As Luo Fei spoke, he saw the confident look on Feng Zhou's face. He could not help but swallow the doubts in his heart. Forget it, if he says he can, then he can. In any case, they weren't in a hurry to leave. Moreover, the experts who came out from the depths should have already left by now. Even if they stayed for another 10 days or half a month, they could afford to wait. Therefore, they rested here. Although they had food in their space, it wasn't enough for a big meal. Therefore, 2 of the 4 went to pick up branches, 2 went to hunt, and Feng Zhou stayed with the mercenary. You've all advanced to the golden core stage. The mercenary looked at Feng Zhou with unconcealable surprise in her eyes. Feng Zhou nodded. Yes. We advanced some time ago, so we decided to go back. This training is already over. She then asked, are you going back to the mercenary union after you go back? Chapter 1173. Hearing this, Feng Zhou chuckled and waved his hand. No need, no need. I saved you because you advised me out of kindness and defended me. Let's call it even. The mercenary lowered his head and said in a low voice, I don't have any family or friends. I've been following the mercenary team around to gain experience. I've saved at least half of the brothers in the team. However, when I couldn't fight anymore and couldn't walk anymore, I was abandoned. No one came out to speak for me. They even took away my chinquan bag and my belongings, leaving me only a rusty dagger. I won't go back to the mercenary team. Feng Zhou rested his chin on his hand and listened without saying a word. Sir, let me follow you. I can be your guard and protect you. I'm a cultivator in the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. After I recover, I can still deal with some people. I don't lack guards, and I don't need anyone to protect me. Why don't I help you ask them? She tilted her head and looked at him as she asked. Sir, you're the one who saved me. He fixed his gaze on Feng Zhou, as if he had already decided on him. Hearing this, Feng Zhou frowned and thought for a moment. This person's heart wasn't bad. She knew this from the first time they met. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come down to save him after seeing that he was the person below. However, following her, she really didn't lack people by her side. Sir, I'm good at tracking and scouting. My tracking skills are quite famous among the mercenaries. If you take me with you, I might be able to help you in the future. Feng Zhou rested his chin on his hand and tapped his face lightly. He thought for a moment and said, You have to swear an oath to be my subordinate. I can't tolerate betrayal and disloyalty the most. Hearing this, he was overjoyed. He immediately pointed 2 fingers to the sky and swore an oath, establishing a master-servant contract. After the light flashed into the space between his eyebrows, the mercenary said respectfully, Sir, from now on, you're the master of Su Mountain. What master? Luo Fei and Duan Yi walked back, carrying a wild boar. Behind them, Ning Lang and Song Ming followed. I'll take him. Fengjiu turned around and smiled, looking at them as he spoke. Ah. You took him in. Why don't you take us in as well? Ning Lang ran back to Fengjiu after hearing what they said. He threw the branch aside and walked quickly to Fengjiu's side. Fengjiu, take us in too. We'll be your lackeys. What's there to collect? I'm too lazy to care about you guys. Let me tell you, once you leave this place, go back to the academy and report yourself. I still have things to do. I won't be bringing you back. Ah. You're not coming back with us. When they heard this, their faces immediately turned gloomy. They thought that they would have to go all the way back to the academy. No, I still have something to do. She said with a smile. Then how do we find you in the future? Why are you looking for me? Haven't you caused enough trouble for me in the past year? It's better if we don't meet her. She said with a half-hearted smile and waved her hand, not telling them where to find her. Ah. How can you do this? The few of them glared at him. Chapter 1174. Hearing this, the few of them sighed. Did he want them to go to the 8 great empires? Although their family also had this intention, they had never taken this matter seriously. Today, when they heard him say this, they faintly felt a trace of desire in their hearts. We should enter a 1-star academy and prepare for the Nebula Sect's disciple recruitment ceremony. The few of them had already made up their minds. After reporting to the academy, they would go back home and then go to the 1-star academy. Well, that's fine. She gestured, hurry up and deal with the wild boar. Let's have a good meal. Okay. So, the few of them worked together. After a while, the wild boar was roasted on the grill. The few of them sat around the fire, barbecuing the meat while chatting. When the fragrance spread, they took out a knife and cut some meat. Using a leaf bun, they gave a piece to Fengjiu. Try it. Fengjiu took it without hesitation. He cut a small piece and tried it. He nodded, well, it's good. Don't burn it. Here, this piece is for you. Ning Lang handed a piece to Su Shan and smiled, since you're with Fengjiu, you're one of us. You don't have to be polite with us. Su Shan thanked him and began to eat. Strange, that eagle didn't seem to come back after leaving. Ning Lang looked at Fengjiu, could it have been caught? It shouldn't be. It probably knew that we were leaving, so it didn't come back. Fengjiu cut a piece of meat and ate it. He looked at Ning Lang and asked, where's your pet? It's in the spirit beast space. I saw that it was still small, so I told it to stay inside and not come out. Well, don't show off before you have the strength. Otherwise, it will be taken away. She reminded. I know, Ning Lang replied with a nod. The few of them chatted and ate until late at night, when they closed their eyes to rest. They were resting, but Fengjiu was not. She was responsible for the safety of the surroundings. Therefore, after releasing her divine sense, she found that there was no movement in the surroundings. Seeing that the few of them were asleep, she came to Su Shan's side. Master. As soon as Fengjiu approached, Su Shan, who was resting with his eyes closed, sensed it. He immediately opened his eyes and was surprised to see that it was Fengjiu. I'll heal you. As she spoke, she gestured for him not to make any noise and wake them up. She then placed a hand on his injured leg. A green light, like the vitality of a tree, surged out from her palm and seeped into his bone marrow. It quickly healed his broken bones. Even his wounds were quickly healing. However, they were bandaged with cloth so no one could see. It was a green aura that was visible to the naked eye. It was a source of life force that was as warm as a flame. Su Shan was surprised. After about half an incense stick's time, he saw that his master's face was slightly pale and his forehead was sweating. He hurriedly asked, "Master, are you all right?" "I'm fine. It's just that I've used up too much energy." "Stand up and move around a little." She wiped off her sweat. This was the first time she had used her vitality ability to heal someone. She wondered how effective it would be. Can I stand up now?" Su Shan asked in surprise. After seeing him nod, he then moved his leg. However, with this movement, he could clearly feel that the pain in his leg had completely disappeared. It was as if his leg had never been injured. Chapter 1175. What are you guys doing? Ning Lang rubbed his eyes and asked. He looked carefully and saw Su Shan walking back and forth. He couldn't help but be stunned. "Isn't your leg bone broken?" Duan Yi and the others were also stunned. Seeing him walking there, it was obvious that he had recovered. But, how was that possible? Wasn't his bone broken? No matter how good the medicine was, it shouldn't have healed so quickly, right? "Yes, it's healed. Look, I can walk and jump now," he said happily and even shook his broken leg, but he didn't feel any pain at all. All right, as long as you're fine, don't show off." Fengjiu waved his hand and motioned for him to stay at the side. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Lang and the others pulled him back. "Fengjiu, do you have any miracle medicine for bone fractures? Give me a bottle too. Otherwise, I'll buy it from you." Ning Lang looked at him fawningly, his chubby hands balled into fists and pounded on his shoulders. "No," she said straightforwardly. "Why not? Look, his leg is healed. Don't be so stingy. I'll buy it from you, so you'll owe me a favor." "I really didn't. It's my hands that can save people. It's not my medicine." All right. Since you guys are awake, keep watch. I'm going to sleep for a while." As she spoke, she walked to the tree and sat down. "Hey." Ning Lang wanted to say something but was stopped by Su Shan. "Young Master Ning, my master is a little tired. Let him rest." Hearing this, Ning Lang and the others noticed that Fengjiu's face was a little pale. They felt strange but didn't pester him. Instead, they asked Su Shan, "Then tell us, how did he treat you? What medicine did he use? Take off the cloth on your leg and let me see." Hearing this, Su Shan shook his head. "That won't do. My master said he would tell you, but he didn't. I can't tell you either. I'll go keep watch. You can do as you please." Seeing that this big guy refused directly, the others were stunned. They looked at each other and didn't say anything else. Fine. It wasn't like they didn't know about Fengjiu's strange temper. He was full of secrets, so there was no need to talk about it. It wasn't until early in the morning when the first ray of sunlight shone down that everyone used water to wash their faces and rinse their mouths. Only after eating something to fill their stomachs did they prepare to leave. Fengjiu looked at them and said, "This forest is fine during the day. If we speed up and don't go in the wrong direction, we should be able to pass through it in a day. Follow me." The few of them nodded and replied, "Yes." As he followed them, Su Shan became more and more surprised. He thought they were all young masters, but he didn't expect them to be more familiar with the environment and danger than he was. When they first came in, they didn't know how long they had walked through this forest of tree spirits. Moreover, they were constantly attacked by the tree spirits, but they seemed to be used to it. Moreover, what surprised him was the leadership ability of the master he had just acknowledged. His words were firm and straightforward, which really made people have a whole new level of respect for him. Thinking of this, he felt that he had done the right thing by pestering his master. Chapter 1176. The group of people followed the red figure in front of them. They channeled their spiritual power and walked at an extremely fast speed, almost without stopping. Along the way, they did not encounter any attacks from other cultivators or ferocious beasts. In the evening, they passed through the forest of tree spirits and arrived at the place where they first entered. They saw the cliff on the opposite side and also saw a group of rogue cultivators guarding the cliff on this side of the mountain range. Look, a fat sheep actually came to our door. A burly man among the rogue cultivators grinned, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth as he stared at Fengjiu and the others with a sinister look. I didn't expect it to be just a few brats. They look easy to deal with. Another person's face was filled with excitement. Moreover, these brats are so soft and tender, especially the one in red. He's even more beautiful than a woman. Damn it, I've stayed in this lousy place for almost a year and haven't seen any decent beauties. This red-clothed brat is mine. The rogue cultivator in the lead was a cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core realm. His face was fierce-looking and he looked more like a bandit than a bandit. Boss, you're right. We don't have to go in and be attacked by ferocious beasts by waiting here. If we see something good, we can just snatch it. This decision is really too wise. A lackey cultivator said fawningly at the side. His small eyes stared at Fengjiu and the others with evil intentions. From their point of view, these 5 brats were only in their teens. Only the big guy was a bit stronger, and he was a golden core cultivator. The others were only in the foundation establishment realm. They would be stupid not to snatch these people. In fact, they did not know that because they left this place, Fengjiu had suppressed his cultivation level. He did not want to be too conspicuous. After all, at their age, being at the foundation establishment realm was already considered very demonic. When Ning Lang, Duan Yi, and the others saw that Fengjiu had suppressed his cultivation level to the foundation establishment realm, they also suppressed their cultivation level to the foundation establishment realm. Their thinking was very simple. Since Fengjiu had suppressed his cultivation level, they naturally would not show off their Golden Core realm cultivation. Moreover, they also hoped to give their families a surprise when they returned home. As a result, he suppressed his cultivation to the foundation establishment stage. However, he didn't expect to encounter such a blind thing as soon as he left the forest. Master, you all step back. I'll deal with them. Su Shan said as he pulled out the long sword that Fengjiu had given them from his waist and pointed it at the rogue cultivators. You blind thing. You're full of filthy words. Su Shan's spiritual aura gushed out. It was a bloodthirsty battle intent. Although he was a middle-stage Golden Core cultivator, he had experienced no less than 100 battles, and the battle intent on his body was not something an ordinary loose cultivator could compare to. Seeing this, Fengjiu gestured with his eyes, and they retreated to the side. The group of rogue cultivators only had a dozen people. Among them, except for the peak Jindan stage cultivator, the rest were all in the foundation establishment stage. They could take this opportunity to see where Su Shan's combat power was. When Ning Lang and the others saw this, they stood aside and watched. Su Shan was now Fengjiu's guard, so they should also help him check whether he was really qualified to stay by Fengjiu's side. If his combat power was too weak, after leaving here, Fengjiu could send him back. However, when they saw the fierce battle intent and terrifying murderous intent that burst out from his body, they were a little surprised. His attacks were swift and clean. They could not see it. He really had some skills. If one person could defeat more than a dozen people, it would not be bad. Whoosh! Chapter 1177. The sharp sword aura struck out, and a visible stream of air hit the throat of a Foundation establishment cultivator with a whoosh. Blood splashed out, and the man staggered backward, falling into the abyss behind him without even a chance to scream. Immediately after, the sword and saber collided. The long sword turned and brushed past the saber in the hand of the peak golden core cultivator. Sparks flew, and the sharp sword aura pierced forward. Hiss! The peak golden core rogue cultivator avoided the fatal point in his panic, but his face was still injured by the sword aura, leaving a bloody gash. He quickly retreated, wiped the blood off his face, and shouted angrily. Go! He waved his saber, indicating for the surrounding Foundation establishment cultivators to go forward and take him down. He aimed at the few youths who were watching a show at the side, and his heart was filled with anger. Damn it! These brats are quite carefree. Let's see if they can still be so calm when they fall into my hands later. He cursed in his heart and was about to move over when he saw the big guy kick a few Foundation establishment cultivators down the cliff and kill a few more with his sharp sword. In less than half an incense stick's time, he lost more than half of his men. Ah! Boss, save me! Some people were still crying for help when they fell into the abyss. Some were shocked when they saw this, and fear rose in their hearts. The more they fought, the more they were no match for him. They couldn't help but cry out and try to escape. Trying to escape. Su Shan's sharp eyes swept over them, and he kicked out a piece of gravel, hitting the back of their heads with a few bangs. Ah! With a muffled groan, they fell to the ground one by one. Seeing this, the peak golden core cultivator suddenly took a big step forward and reached out to grab Fingzhou in red. You dare to offend my master, you're courting death. Su Shan turned around and saw the rogue cultivator reach out to grab Fingzhou. He immediately turned and stepped forward, grabbed the rogue cultivator's foot with one hand, and pulled him back fiercely. Fingzhou, Duan Yi, and the others watched quietly. Even when they saw the peak golden core cultivator attacking them, no one dodged, as if they knew that he couldn't hurt them. That's right, a golden core cultivator wanted to hurt a nascent soul cultivator. In this world, how many monsters like Fingzhou could kill a nascent soul cultivator? How dare he attack Fingzhou? He was tired of dying too slowly. However, Su Shan's skills and fighting strength opened their eyes. Even if they fought him, they wouldn't be his match. He was a true middle-stage gold core cultivator. His combat prowess and fighting spirit were gathered from every slaughter and battle. He had combat experience that they did not have. Although, of a person. To him. Chapter 1178. He put away his long sword and turned around. Master, we can go now. Fingzhou nodded and was about to walk away when Ning Lang, who was beside him, jumped forward excitedly and picked up the Qianquan bags and other things from the ground. Seeing this, the corners of her mouth twitched slightly and she couldn't help but want to hold her forehead. This brat was still the same. Which Jindan stage cultivator would care about such a small thing? Which golden core cultivator would be as greedy as him? Ning Lang, you didn't do anything. Aren't you embarrassed to take it? She said casually and saw the smile on his face stiffen. He looked up at her embarrassedly. Hee, I didn't want to keep it for myself. Didn't I count the spoils for Su Shan? As he spoke, he gave Su Shan all the things he got from the rogue cultivators. Here, you can have it. Keep it well. This. Su Shan wanted to decline, but he heard his master's voice. Take it. Didn't those mercenaries take all the things you have? It's a good chance to add some things so that you won't be empty-handed. Yes, thank you, master, he answered and took the things. I helped you count them. Why don't you thank me? Ning Lang snorted and said, "Thank you, young Master Ning." Su Shan smiled and cupped his hands. "That's more like it." Ning Lang smiled and looked at the place in front of them. He looked at Feng Zhou and asked, "Are we still going over the same way we came?" "Yes, that's fine." Feng Zhou nodded. Song Ming walked out from the side with a smile. "Watch me." He came to the side and shot arrows at the other party in the same way as they came over. He pulled the rope to help them. Not long after, a few people walked over the rope one after another. After they came to the other side, Song Ming retracted the rope. The group continued to walk forward under the cover of the night. They didn't leave this place until dawn. Ah! The sun is out and we're out too. I didn't lose an arm or a leg and I even earned a lot of good things. I'm so happy. Ning Lang opened his arms wide and cheered at the sky. His fat body ran up and down the mountain path. He couldn't hide his joy and people couldn't help but smile. Feng Zhou chuckled and said, "Not only did you not lose an arm or a leg, but you also probably gained weight. Didn't you notice that your stomach protruded again?" She looked down and her gaze landed on his round stomach. Hearing this, the people around her also laughed. "And my stomach? Why aren't our stomachs as round as yours? If you're fat, so be it. Stop looking for excuses. What's there to hide?" Luo Fei chuckled and stared at his round stomach teasingly. Seeing this, Song Ming waved his hand and said with a smile, all right. Let's not talk about him. How can he be called little fatty if he's not fat? Don't you think so? Ha ha ha. Chapter 1179. The few of them laughed as they talked, the breeze blowing on their faces made their mood soar. Also, after a year of experience, they had experienced many dangers inside, and now that they had come out alive, their strength had also improved. Not only that, but the friendship between the few of them had also become stronger, which was something that they could not get in their own families. 2 days later, in the evening, the few of them came to a city and checked into an inn. The first thing they did was to ask the waiter to prepare hot water for them to take a hot bath. After ordering a table of food and wine, Luo Fei said with a smile, "I can finally have a good rest. Tomorrow I will sleep until I wake up naturally, don't wake me up." "Well, I also want to have a good sleep. I haven't had a good rest in there, but I can finally have a good sleep here." Song Ming also nodded and said, "Wait until you have a good rest, we are not in a hurry anyway." Ning Lang also nodded, yes, let's rest for 2 days first." Duan Yi looked at Feng Zhou and asked, "Where are you going next? You really don't want to go back to the academy with us?" "I am going to a first-class country, so I won't go back to the academy." "You can go back and report it, by the way. Ask the dean to send a message to the 6-star academy." "A first-class country? Why don't you come with us?" "Anyway, we are going there, wouldn't it be better to have companions on the road? If you have something to do, maybe we can help." "No, I can do this by myself." She smiled and said, "It is not good to sleep after eating. Do you want to go out for a walk in the night market and then come back?" "Okay." The few of them agreed. If they went with him, they would still be willing to go out for a walk. Although things like going to the night market were mostly liked by women, they did not understand why Feng Zhou would also like to go shopping. So, the few teenagers who did not like to go shopping accompanied Feng Zhou to the night market, while Su Shan did not follow, and stayed in the inn. These people were all teenagers. Their faces were outstanding and handsome, each with their own unique characteristics. Coupled with their luxurious clothes, one could tell at a glance that they were the sons of aristocratic families. As they walked on the street, they naturally attracted the attention of many people. Among them, most of them were teenage girls. Seeing those young girls raising their handkerchiefs to cover half of their faces and looking at them shyly, Songming proudly raised his chin, putting on the appearance of a noble young master, and said, "This young man is valiant and formidable. As expected, I can charm thousands of young girls wherever I go." "Fine." Luo Fei glanced at him and said, "You were clearly looking at me." "How is that possible?" "You're looking at me." Ning Lang rubbed his round belly and grinned with his eyes squinted into slits. Duan Yi rolled his eyes. These idiots. Those women were clearly looking at Fingzhou, not at them. "Young master." Someone called out softly. They raised their heads and saw some fruits being thrown down from a nearby building. Fengzhou was stunned for a moment, then reached out to catch it, returned a charming smile, and directly took the fruit and ate it. Seeing this, the few people behind him were stunned. Then, they heard a surprised scream from upstairs. "Ah! He took my fruit. He ate the fruit I threw. Ah! I want to throw too, young master, take my fruit, young master. Young master, and mine, young master, take the fruit." Chapter 1180. For a moment, the women in the pavilions on both sides of the street leaned half of their bodies out. Some threw down fruits directly, while others wrapped the fruits in handkerchiefs and threw them down. For a moment, fruits flew all over the sky, stunning everyone on the street. "Hurry up and catch them. What are you waiting for? Don't waste the girls' good intentions." As Song Ming spoke, he patted the shoulders of the people beside him and pulled up his robes to catch the fruits that were thrown down. Oh, oh. Ning Lang was also stunned for a moment before he came back to his senses. Coincidentally, there was a stall selling baskets next to them. He picked up 2 baskets and caught them. Not only were the girls upstairs throwing fruits down, but some girls on the street also bought fruits and brought them up directly. They put the fruits in the baskets and ran away shyly. All right, stop throwing them, stop throwing them. We can't carry them all," Ning Lang shouted. He carried 2 baskets full of fruits to Fengzhou's side. Seeing that he was eating fruits in his hands, he couldn't help but say, "Fengzhou, how can we finish all these? Let's go. We'll rest at the pavilion by the lake. Let's go." Fengzhou helped carry the baskets. Their figures flitted across the street. Not long after, they arrived at the pavilion by the lake. They put the fruits in the pavilion. Other than Ning Lang carrying 2 baskets, the others also filled their pockets. Looking at so many fruits, they couldn't help but shake their heads. They looked at Fengzhou. "What should we do with so many fruits?" "Eat. This fruit is quite fresh. It's crispy, sweet, and juicy." She picked up another one and ate it, saying, "Girls nowadays are too enthusiastic. This isn't the first time I've collected fruits. Eat. How can we finish all these?" Song Ming also picked up one and ate it, saying, "It'll spoil if it's left for too long." "That's easy. I have an idea." Ning Lang grinned and looked at them, saying, "Look, there are many tourists here. We can sell the fruits here." Hearing this, Fengzhou and the others were stunned. They looked at him strangely and said, "You can sell them if you want." "I'm not going." "I'm not going either." Duan Yi also shook his head. "We're not going either," Luo Fei and Song Ming said. They weren't that short of money. Selling fruits. If this were to spread back, people would laugh themselves to death. Ning Lang chuckled. "You're really not going? All right then. I'll sell it myself, but I won't share the money with you." As he spoke, he carried a basket of fruits to the pavilion and looked at the tourists around him. They were all in pairs, so he thought for a moment, cleared his throat and shouted. Sweetheart goal. Betraying your lover. Lover fruit. What Valentine fruit? A young man and woman walked over and asked curiously. When they saw that it was just a fresh fruit, they couldn't help but feel disappointed. This is the lover fruit. One green and one red for a pair. I only sell these fruits to my lovers. If you don't come in a pair like the two of you, I won't sell them. Ning Lang smiled and squinted his eyes as he spoke. He picked up a pair of fruits and handed it over. Young master, buy a pair. Please treat this beautiful and elegant lady to a Valentine's fruit. It's crispy, sweet and delicious. Chapter 1181. All right, 1 gold coin please, he said with a smile as he handed the fruits over. What? These 2 fruits are only worth 1 gold coin. Are you trying to rob us? The man was a little dumbfounded. Even his expression changed. 1 silver coin on the streets could get a caddy of fruits, but here, 2 fruits were worth 1 gold coin. It would be fine if it was silver coins, but why did it have to be gold coins? Had this person gone crazy from thinking about money? No, it's just 1 gold coin. This is already a very good and cheap price, Ning Lang introduced. As he spoke, he introduced the fruits to them. These 2 fruits aren't expensive, but they've passed through my hands. Moreover, they're lover fruits, so that's different. Do you know who I am? With my status, I'm selling these fruits. Of course, these fruits can't be sold for ordinary money. Ning Lang smiled and squinted his eyes as he spoke. Seeing the man's stiff face and the woman's slightly lowered head, he continued, besides, I can see that you have a noble aura around you. You're definitely not someone who is shy about money. Moreover, you're buying it for this beautiful lady. Don't tell me that this lady isn't worthy of you spending a gold coin to treat her to the Valentine fruit. Fengjiu and the others who were sitting in the pavilion were also a little dumbfounded when they heard this. This fatty was robbing them. Moreover, it was a blatant robbery, but it was like a snake hitting its weak spot to promote its position, grasping the thoughts of the man and woman. Not to mention that these 2 fruits were only worth 1 gold coin. Even if they were worth 10 gold coins, the man would still buy them. Otherwise, this pair would probably break up this time. Was he selling lover fruits? If this fruit didn't sell well, it would break up the couple. The few people in the pavilion sat and watched while eating the fruits. In the end, they saw that the man bought a pair of fruits and left. The woman was happy. Seeing this, the man felt a little aggrieved, but he could only force a smile and walk away. This was probably the most expensive ordinary fruit he had ever bought. Look, I've earned 1 gold coin. Ning Lang turned around and smiled at them proudly. He shouted again and more people came over one after another. In the end, they were all the same. Some were happy to buy, while others were unhappy. But no matter what, even the fruits in the pavilion were sold out by Ning Lang in the end. Looking at Ning Lang, who was sitting there counting the gold coins, Fengjiu and the others sincerely admired him. This little fatty really lived up to his name of being a money grubber. Wherever he went, he would think about making money. It was amazing that he could earn so much just from those fruits. I'm already satisfied that I can earn so much just by visiting a night market. As Ning Lang spoke, he carefully put away each gold coin. Especially those that I don't have to share with you. Ha ha ha. Alright, it's getting late. Let's go back and rest. Fengjiu shook his head and stood up. He was happy. They were watching here, but many people left with stiff faces. He made a lot of money from selling these fruits, but there were indeed many people who felt that they had been cheated. Actually, what he said was not unreasonable. He was the son of the richest man in the country. Since he was buying fruits, the fruits naturally couldn't be sold at the market price. Not to mention 1 gold coin, he could probably sell them for 100 gold coins. However, by then, the buyers would not be ordinary people, but people who knew his identity and wanted to get close to him. They would be happy to spend 100 gold coins to get close to him. Chapter 1182. They returned to the inn to rest together. During this period of time, their tense minds were completely relaxed after lying on the bed of the inn in the city. Therefore, they quickly fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, Fengzhou and Su Shan quietly left the inn early in the morning. After leaving the inn, Su Shan asked, "Master, why didn't you say goodbye to the young masters? What if they can't find you? We have to say goodbye sooner or later. It doesn't matter if I say goodbye or not. Anyway, they know that I'm leaving," Fengzhou said, looking at the street where there were fewer people in the morning. "Let's go." "Yes." Fei Shan replied and left with him. After a year, even Duan Yi and the others didn't know that Fengzhou was a woman. They didn't know that the person they had been calling him was actually her. Duan Yi and the others didn't know, let alone Su Shan, who had followed Fengzhou halfway. Even if he recognized Fengzhou as his master, he didn't know that his master was actually a woman. He also didn't know that Fengzhou was the ghost doctor. He also didn't know that Fengzhou's strength had reached the nascent soul stage. He only knew and recognized that Fengzhou was the person who saved him. He gave him a new life. Therefore, he was willing to protect him with his life. It wasn't until noon that Duan Yi and the others in the inn woke up one after another. After washing up, they went out of the room and sat down on the first floor. When they were about to order something to eat, they found that the 4 of them were all present. However, Fengzhou and Su Shan were nowhere to be seen. "Where's Fengzhou? Is he still asleep?" Ning Lang asked. He looked around and didn't see Fengzhou's figure, so he stood up. "Order something good first. I'll go up and take a look." Luo Fei and the others nodded. They called the waiter and ordered a few dishes and bowls of rice. Ning Lang, who went up to the guest room on the 2nd floor, knocked on the door of Fengzhou's room and called out, "Fengzhou, are you still asleep? We're all awake. We're just waiting for you to eat." "Fengzhou." He slammed the door a little too hard, and the door was slammed open. Seeing this, he walked in. "Fengzhou." He didn't see anyone inside or outside, nor did he see the cloud-devouring beast. He couldn't help but be startled. Just as he was about to go out and ask the shopkeeper, he saw the shopkeeper walk in. "Young master, this young master left early in the morning." The shopkeeper came in and said, "He's gone." Ning Lang was shocked and raised his voice a few notches. "Yes, he left early in the morning. His bodyguard also left with him. It's been several hours," the shopkeeper said and then left. Ning Lang immediately strode outside and walked down quickly to Duan Yi and the others. The shopkeeper said that Fengzhou has left. Moreover, I didn't see him in his room. This is too mean. Why didn't he tell us that he was leaving? He left so quietly just like that. Seriously. The few people sitting at the table were drinking wine. Ning Lang couldn't see their expressions clearly because of their lowered eyes. He only heard them say, "We heard what you said to the shopkeeper upstairs. You don't have to say anything. He said that he was going to leave, but we didn't expect him to leave so soon." Ning Lang sat down and didn't say anything. He only felt a little sad. After being together for so long, he suddenly left. They didn't even know where to find him. Just thinking about it made him feel bad. Chapter 1183. He should have gone, but I don't know, what is he going there for? Song Ming said thoughtfully. With Fengjiu's reputation as the ghost doctor, what kind of things would he need to do personally? No matter what, let's go to the academy first. After we return home, we will go to the one-star academy to report. With our family background, as long as we want to, we can directly enter the one-star academy. Besides, with our current strength, there are not many people in the one-star academy who can compare with us. That's true, then let's do it. After we finish eating, we will set off. The few of them put aside the matter of Fengjiu's departure for the time being. After a year of experience outside, following Fengjiu and experiencing so many things, their temperament and character had changed a little, and they were able to think further. They knew that Fengjiu was bound to go to the 8 great empires, and since that was the case, they also had to go there. They were the people he had brought out, how could they stay here after he left? Half a month later Fengjiu brought Su Shan into the Qi Tian country, and arrived at the Shengguan clan's imperial city. Fengjiu, who was dressed in red and had a handsome face, was still very dazzling even in the imperial city of a first-class country. As he queued up to enter the city gate, he was like a crane in a flock of chickens. He was dazzling and flamboyant, and people could see him in the crowd at a glance. At her feet, there was a small beast with snow-white fur, Tun Yun, and behind her was Su Shan, who was wearing a black bodyguard's uniform. Su Shan's figure was robust, with a tiger's back and a bear's waist. Standing behind Fengjiu, he looked like a small mountain. Because there were many people entering the city, he followed closely behind Fengjiu to guard him, paying attention to not let any unknown people come close. Coincidentally, he was also a registered mercenary of the Qi Tian country's mercenary guild. They used to live in the imperial city, but he did not expect that his master would actually come to this familiar place. There was a ban in a first-class country, and non-first-class citizens were not allowed to casually enter. However, when he followed behind and saw that his master was respectfully allowed to pass after handing over the token, he was a little surprised, but he did not ask any questions. Since he was a bodyguard, he could not ask too much about his master's matters, he knew this point. Su Shan, didn't you say that you grew up here? Then you can choose an inn to stay in. Fengjiu walked leisurely, from time to time, to look at the shops and stalls on the street. Yes. Su Shan replied, Master, there is an old inn, in the imperial city, although the price is twice the price, the environment and the treatment is the best inn, we can go book a room first, and then this subordinate will take you around the city. Visit us, have a tour around the city. Yes. Su Shan replied, and brought Fengjiu to the inn in front. When Fengjiu entered the city, almost all the people from the large families received the news. After all, the ghost doctor's name was too well known, and the various powers in the imperial city had long since obtained a portrait of the ghost doctor. Therefore, they had always sent people to keep an eye on the imperial city's gates, and once they saw the ghost doctor in their imperial city, they had to immediately report back. Chapter 1184. While some of those people followed and some left, Fengjiu, who was still walking leisurely on the street without noticing anything, turned his head slightly and looked to the side. The corners of his lips curled up slightly as he continued to walk. What? You're saying that the person in the portrait is here? Is that true? The master of one of the aristocratic families in the imperial city was pleasantly surprised when he heard his subordinate's report. That's right, your subordinate wouldn't have seen wrongly. He was dressed in a red robe and had a handsome face that was dazzling. It was indeed the young man in the painting. Your subordinate had ordered someone to follow him in secret so he could report back immediately. The guard said respectfully. You've seen him. That means that the other aristocratic families have noticed him as well. The master pondered for a moment before saying, Quick, bring the young master here. I want to bring the ghost doctor to our residence before they do. At this moment, the housekeeper stepped forward and said, Master, the young master left early in the morning. He said that he was going to go shopping. I'm afraid that you still have to send someone to look for him. Find him and bring him back. He waved his hand and strode out. On the other side, another aristocratic family was pleasantly surprised when they heard the news. That means that the ghost doctor has really come to the imperial city of Chi Tian country. That's great. Quick, come with me to bring him back so that the other old men don't get the upper hand. The master of the house said as he led his men out. Meanwhile, in the Shangguan household, they were astonished when they heard their informant's report. The ghost doctor has come to the imperial city. That means that all the powers in the imperial city know about it. The master of the Shangguan household said. He didn't seem too excited, as if he didn't feel anything. That's right. My informant has already gone back to report it. Pfft. Those old men are quite nimble. He's just a young man who knows how to refine some impractical things. What's so special about that? When it comes to refining pills, which aristocratic family can compare to our Shangguan household? The guard lowered his head and didn't say a word. He listened to the master's angry and disapproving voice reverberate throughout the hall. Just have someone keep an eye on him. Find out what he's doing in the imperial city. He waved his hand and gestured for him to leave. However, at this moment, an old man walked in from outside. Patriarch, I heard news that the ghost doctor has come to the imperial city. Did our Shangguan clan send someone to pick him up? The person who had come was the third elder of the Shangguan clan whom Fingzhou had met once before. He's just a teenager who just made his debut. Third elder, you think too highly of him. Our Shangguan clan is an alchemy clan in a first-class country. If we try to curry favor with a teenager of unknown origin, wouldn't we become a joke? The master of the Shangguan family was not the old master of the Shangguan family, but the old master's eldest son, who was Fingzhou's uncle. Hearing this, the third elder frowned slightly. Master, this Fingzhou is not an ordinary person. Even our Shangguan clan cannot refine the things he refines. This is undeniable. If this person did not come to our imperial city, it would be fine. But if he did come to the imperial city and we did not invite him, wouldn't we be giving this opportunity to someone else? Chapter 1185. Hearing his words, the Shangguan family head frowned and pursed his lips, as if he wasn't too willing. That was true, their Shangguan family was a well-known alchemy family in the first place, with an outstanding position and revered status. However, ever since the appearance of this mysterious youth called the Ghost Doctor, the limelight had completely overshadowed their Shangguan family, a family with 100 years of history. Even a random pill or medicine from him could cause the various countries to go crazy, with all the strong cultivators fighting over it. The prices were raised to sky-high prices. What was even more hateful was that he would only put a few up for auction from time to time, and then there would be no news for a few months or even longer. However, all the various powers seemed to be possessed by his pills and medicines, asking everywhere for them. Ever since the appearance of this ghost doctor, the number of people who came to the Shangguan family to ask for medicine had decreased by quite a bit. How could he swallow this anger? He even had to invite the ghost doctor to their Shangguan family to treat him as an important guest. He wasn't too willing, and wasn't too willing. Since third elder has said so, then I'll leave this matter to you. The Shangguan family head stood up, flicked his sleeves, and walked out, obviously not wanting to bother with this matter. Seeing this, third elder shook his head and sighed softly, then looked at the guard who had retreated to the side of the door, asking, "Where is the ghost doctor?" Replying to third elder, when this subordinate came back to report, they were heading towards the inn. At this moment, they might be in the inn, and we have people following them. Lead the way. He gestured for the guard to lead the way. Yes. The guard replied, and walked out of the residence with him. At the same time, Fengjiu and Su Shan walked out of the inn after booking a room. Su Shan lowered his voice and said, "Master, it seems like someone has been following us, and it's not just one group." "Then let's dump them," she said indifferently, and walked with him on the main street. Sometimes they were fast, sometimes they were slow, and sometimes they stopped to look at the things on the side of the street. The people following behind them were a little anxious, afraid that they would lose them, but also afraid that they would be discovered if they followed too closely. After about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. Where are they? Why have they disappeared? Two men walked out from the shadows and saw that the two people who were looking at the stall in front of them had disappeared. They weren't the only ones who felt this way. Some of the other people also started to look around after they lost track of the person. With so many people watching, how could they lose track of the person? How was he going to explain this to the higher-ups? On the other side, Fengjiu and Su Shan were sitting in the corner of an inconspicuous stall. The stall was partially covered by a cloth, and since they were sitting in the corner, they were blocked by the people outside, so no one saw them. Fengjiu ordered some snacks and a bowl of sweet soup. He sat there and ate leisurely. "Master, those people have passed by." Su Shan paid attention to the people who were secretly following them. He searched around and walked through the streets outside. "And, don't bother with them." She drank the sweet soup, knowing that they were probably people from the various great clans in the imperial city. She didn't disguise herself when she came here, nor did she try to hide her identity. Since these people from aristocratic families had her portrait in their hands, they would naturally make some preparations. It wasn't strange that they knew she was here. Chapter 1186. What are you doing? How could you lose track of such a good person? Didn't I tell you not to get too close to him? You must have been discovered by him. Otherwise, why would he dump you? Why aren't you looking for him? What are you doing here? Go look for him. In front of the inn, a few family heads were instructing their subordinates. Because the family heads of the large families in the city had personally come to the inn, the people on the street thought that something big had happened and gathered around to watch. Even the owner of the inn personally came out to inquire. Only then did they know that an important guest had come. The family heads in the city wanted to invite him back, but they didn't manage to do so. Family heads, don't be anxious. The innkeeper just told me that young master booked 2 rooms and should be staying here. Family heads, why don't you wait in the inn? Maybe he went to the city for a stroll and will be back in a while. Hearing that, no one said anything else. Since they didn't see him, they would naturally wait here. They just didn't know if the ghost doctor would come back to the inn if he knew that they were watching him. If he didn't come back, where would they go to find him? Oh. Family heads, you're here too. The Shengguan family's 3rd elder walked over with only one guard. Seeing that everyone was here, he smiled knowingly. Are you all here to look for young Master Feng? 3rd elder, why ask when you already know the answer? A family head said, glancing at him and saying with a fake smile, why isn't the Shengguan family head here, but 3rd elder? Looks like you don't put young Master Feng in your eyes. You all don't know, but I've met young Master Feng before. We can be considered old friends. Knowing that he came to the imperial city, this old man didn't dare to neglect an old friend, so I personally came to receive him. Hearing that, everyone's expressions changed. The ghost doctor knew someone from the Shengguan family. How was that possible? They hadn't heard of this before. 3rd elder, I'm afraid you've made a wasted trip. Young Master Feng went out and hasn't returned yet. It's all right. I have nothing to do anyway, so I can wait here. With that, he smiled and walked into the inn. When the owner of the inn saw that all the leaders of the various forces in the city had come, including the third elder of the Shengguan family, he was slightly surprised and hurriedly ordered people to serve tea and snacks to entertain them. Because of this, the people in the inn also came out to watch curiously. They whispered to each other, thinking that something was going to happen. On the other side, Fengjiu continued to stroll around after eating the food and sweet soup from the stall. He saw a high-end jewelry shop in the city, so he said to Su Shan, "I'll go in and take a look. You can wait for me at the door." "Yes." Fei Shan answered and waited at the door. As soon as he walked in, the shopkeeper came over and asked with a smile, "Young master, please take a look around. You can tell me which one you like." Fengjiu answered and slowly walked in, looking at the jewelry on display. These were all just jewelry. There were gold, jade, crystal, and precious stones. After skimming through them one by one, his eyes fell on a set of jewelry. Chapter 1187. "I'll take this set," she indicated as she tapped the table. "All right." The shopkeeper revealed a smile and took out the set of jewelry. He placed it on a tray and followed behind Fengjiu. "Take this set as well." She pointed at another set of sky blue gemstones in the cabinet. She planned to give this set to her grandmother. "All right." The shopkeeper's eyes narrowed with a smile. After taking it out, he continued to follow as he said, "Young master really has good taste. Our jewelry here is one of a kind. In the entire imperial city, our jewelry shop is the largest and most comprehensive. Moreover, all of our jewelry has our own logo and the quality is top-notch." Fengjiu walked around inside. It seemed that the two sets of jewelry would enter his eyes soon. He said, "All right, let's settle the bill." "All right, young master, please come this way." The shopkeeper led him to the front. After helping him settle the bill, he placed the items in an exquisite jewelry box. "I wanted to come 2 days ago, but I couldn't find the time. Let me tell you, this is you." 3 beautiful women walked in together. However, one of the women wearing a red dress saw Fengjiu putting away the jewelry box from the shopkeeper and immediately let out a sharp cry. Fengjiu looked up and glanced at her. He didn't remember seeing this woman before, so he didn't pay her any attention. After putting away the things, he moved to walk out. "Stop!" The woman in red reached out to stop him. She angrily glared at the dazzling and handsome Fengjiu in red. "Why are you here? Who are you? How strange." She waved her hand, and an invisible force came out from her sleeves. She pushed the man away and walked out. The woman staggered back a few steps and was supported by the 2 people beside her. Just as she was about to walk forward, she was stopped by the 2 women. "What's wrong? Do you know him?" "Humph. I would recognize this brat even if he turned into ashes. I have a big grudge with him," the woman in red said through gritted teeth. She shouted at the red figure walking out, "Stop right there." As soon as his voice fell, a whip lashed out with a swoosh. It fiercely streaked across the air, bringing with it the sound of wind breaking. Fengjiu, who was walking out, turned her body slightly and dodged the attack behind her without looking back. The whip flew past her face, but it didn't hurt her at all. At this time, Su Shan, who was guarding outside, stepped out and caught the whip with one hand. With a tug, the woman holding the whip was pulled out and fiercely fell onto the street outside. "Who are you? How dare you injure my master?" Su Shan shouted in a deep voice. The pressure of the Jindan stage was released, making it impossible for the woman on the ground to even get up. After all, this was the imperial city of the Qi Tian country, where the Shangguan clan resided. Furthermore, this woman was the young mistress of the Shangguan clan. Who would have the guts to attack a member of the Shangguan clan in their own territory? Wasn't this courting death? It was because they knew that no one would dare to touch a member of the Shangguan clan. Therefore, when the young mistresses of these clans went out in the imperial city, they didn't have any bodyguards to protect them. However, they didn't expect to meet someone who wasn't afraid of the Shangguan clan today. He had directly taught the young mistress of the Shangguan clan a lesson. Chapter 1188. Let's go. Fengjiu said and withdrew his gaze. He didn't put the woman in his eyes and turned to leave. Su Shan saw this and hurriedly followed behind him. When the woman saw this, she was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Her eyes were filled with anger and unwillingness as she stared at the man who left. He entered the imperial city and hurt her, yet he still wanted to leave. Humph. She would let him know what the consequences of offending her were. While the woman went back to the Shangguan family to call for her master, Fengjiu took Su Shan to the black market. After receiving the black order, he personally came out to greet the president of the black market. Su Shan was surprised to see this. What was his master's background? Even some family heads couldn't meet him. Why did the president of the black market come out to meet him in person? While he was surprised, he was taken to the side to rest by the people of the black market, and his master was invited inside. Even he didn't know what they were going to do inside. I just heard that Master Feng arrived in the imperial city, but I didn't have time to visit you. The president of the black market smiled and gestured. Looking at Fengjiu sitting in the first seat on the left, he asked, "May I know why Master Feng came to the imperial city? Is there anything we can help you with?" He took the initiative to ask. After all, his identity was not ordinary, and he was on good terms with the black market. If he could help him, it would also help him. The servant served tea and retreated. Fengjiu glanced at him and said, "I came to get some information from the president." "Oh. What information does Master Feng want?" "Information about Shangguan Wanrong from the Shangguan family." "Shangguan Wanrong." The president of the black market was startled and then asked with a smile, "I remember that I investigated her before and gave it to Master Feng. But Master Feng hasn't shown up recently. Maybe you don't know that Shangguan Wanrong from the Shangguan family left half a year ago." Hearing this, Fengjiu frowned slightly. "She's not here." "What do you mean?" "Hee, it's like this. I think Master Feng has heard of Shangguan Wanrong's reputation. She is the most outstanding alchemist among the several generations of the Shangguan family. Although she rarely came out, I know she was in the Shangguan family. But half a year ago, she was taken away by the Danyang sect." Speaking of this, the black market president smiled. "This Shangguan Wanrong is also very lucky. I don't know how she caught the eye of the Danyang sect's 3 Yangtze, the biggest alchemy sect in the 8 big empires, and was taken away by him as his last disciple. This matter caused a sensation half a year ago, and people in all the big countries have heard about it. So if she wanted to find her mother, she had to go to the Danyang sect. She had originally thought that she would definitely bring her mother back home to reunite with her father, but she didn't expect her mother to have joined the largest alchemy sect in the 8 great empires. As a result, it would be much more troublesome for her to bring her mother back." Thinking of this, she couldn't help but frown. What should she do next? You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.